Welcome back to part 3 of the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate, SAA-C03, Practice Test Series. In this session, we'll continue working through more practice questions, breaking down each answer step by step, and highlighting the key concepts you need to master for the exam. By the end, you'll gain deeper insights into AWS services and the confidence to tackle complex scenarios with ease. AWS SAA-C03, good to know. Exam content: there are two types of questions on the exam: multiple choice, has one correct response and three incorrect responses; multiple response, has two or more correct responses. Exam questions. There are 65 questions in AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate, 50 65th scored question, 15 65ths unscored question. Good think there was no negative marking. All reference document links are available in my Medium post. You'll find the link in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Code with Ankit Sahu for more AWS practice tests and tech tutorials. You can also follow us on Facebook and Medium for additional content and updates. Thanks for watching, and let's dive right into keep building your AWS success story. Question 1. A video analytics organization has been acquired by a leading media company. The analytics organization has 10 independent applications with an on-premises data footprint of about 70 terabytes for each application. The CTO of the media company has set a timeline of 2 weeks to carry out the data migration from on-premises data center to AWS Cloud and establish connectivity. Which of the following are the most cost-effective options for completing the data transfer and establishing connectivity? Select 2. Option A. Set up AWS site-to-site VPN to establish ongoing connectivity between the on-premises data center and AWS Cloud. Option B. Order 10 AWS Snowball Edge Storage optimized devices to complete the one-time data transfer. Option C. Set up AWS Direct Connect to establish connectivity between the on-premises data center and AWS Cloud. Option D. Order 70 AWS Snowball Edge Storage optimized devices to complete the one-time data transfer. Option E. Order 1 AWS Snowmobile to complete the one-time data transfer. Correct answer. Option A. Set up AWS site-to-site VPN to establish ongoing connectivity between the on-premises data center and AWS Cloud. Option B. Order 10 AWS Snowball Edge Storage optimized devices to complete the one-time data transfer. Explanation: AWS Snowball Edge Storage Optimized is the optimal choice if you need to securely and quickly transfer dozens of terabytes to petabytes of data to AWS. It provides up to 80 terabytes of usable HDD storage, 40 vCPUs, 1 TB of SATA SSD storage, and up to 40 gigabytes of network connectivity to address large-scale data transfer and pre-processing use cases. As each Snowball Edge Storage optimized device can handle 80 terabytes of data, you can order 10 such devices to take care of the data transfer for all applications. Exam alert: the original Snowball devices were transitioned out of service, and Snowball Edge Storage optimized are now the primary devices used for data transfer. You may see the Snowball device on the exam. Just remember that the original Snowball device had 80 terabytes of storage space. Set up AWS site-to-site VPN to establish ongoing connectivity between the on-premises data center and AWS Cloud. AWS site-to-site VPN enables you to securely connect your on-premises network or branch office site to your Amazon Virtual Private Cloud, Amazon VPC. You can securely extend your data center or branch office network to the cloud with an AWS site-to-site VPN connection. A VPC VPN connection utilizes IPsec to establish encrypted network connectivity between your intranet and Amazon VPC over the internet. VPN connections can be configured in minutes and are a good solution if you have an immediate need, have low to modest bandwidth requirements, and can tolerate the inherent variability in internet-based connectivity. Therefore, This option is the right fit for the given use case as the connectivity can be easily established within the given time frame. Hence, the following options are correct. Order 10 AWS Snowball Edge Storage Optimized devices to complete the one-time data transfer setup. AWS Site to Site VPN to establish ongoing connectivity between the on-premises data center and AWS Cloud. References. Question 2. A news network uses Amazon's simple storage service, Amazon S3, to aggregate the raw video footage from its reporting teams across the US. The news network has recently expanded into new geographies in Europe and Asia. The technical teams at the overseas branch offices have reported huge delays in uploading large video files to the destination Amazon S3 bucket. Which of the following are the most cost-effective options to improve the file upload speed into Amazon S3? Select 2. Option A. Use AWS Global Accelerator for faster file uploads into the destination Amazon S3 bucket. Option B. Create multiple AWS Direct Connect connections between the AWS Cloud and branch offices in Europe and Asia. Use the Direct Connect connections for faster file uploads into Amazon S3. Option C. Use Amazon S3 Transfer Acceleration, Amazon S3 TA, to enable faster file uploads into the destination S3 bucket. Option D. Use multi-part uploads for faster file uploads into the destination Amazon S3 bucket. Option E. Create multiple AWS site-to-site VPN connections between the AWS Cloud and branch offices in Europe and Asia. Use these VPN connections for faster file uploads into Amazon S3. Correct answer. Option C. Use Amazon S3 Transfer Acceleration, Amazon S3 TA, to enable faster file uploads into the destination S3 bucket. Option D. Use multi-part uploads for faster file uploads into the destination Amazon S3 bucket. Explanation: Amazon S3 Transfer Acceleration enables fast, easy, and secure transfers of files over long distances between your client and an S3 bucket. Amazon S3 TA takes advantage of Amazon CloudFront's globally distributed edge locations. As the data arrives at an edge location, data is routed to Amazon S3 over an optimized network path. Multi-part upload allows you to upload a single object as a set of parts. Each part is a contiguous portion of the object's data. You can upload these object parts independently and in any order. If transmission of any part fails, you can retransmit that part without affecting other parts. After all parts of your object are uploaded, Amazon S3 assembles these parts and creates the object. In general, when your object size reaches 100 megabytes, you should consider using multi-part uploads instead of uploading the object in a single operation. Multi-part upload provides improved throughput, therefore it facilitates faster file uploads. Hence, the following options are correct. Use Amazon S3 Transfer Acceleration, Amazon S3 TA, to enable faster file uploads into the destination S3 bucket. Use multi-part uploads for faster file uploads into the destination Amazon S3 bucket. References. Question 3. A financial services company uses Amazon GuardDuty for analyzing its AWS account metadata to meet the compliance guidelines. However, the company has now decided to stop using Amazon GuardDuty service. All the existing findings have to be deleted and cannot persist anywhere on AWS Cloud. Which of the following techniques will help the company meet this requirement? Option A. Raise a service request with Amazon to completely delete the data from all their backups. Option B. Deregister the service under Services tab. Option C. Disable the service in the general settings. Option D. Suspend the service in the general settings. Correct answer. Option C. Disable the service in the general settings. Explanation: Amazon Guard Duty offers threat detection that enables you to continuously monitor and protect your AWS accounts, workloads, and data stored in Amazon S3. Guard Duty analyzes continuous streams of metadata generated from your account and network activity found in AWS CloudTrail events, Amazon VPC flow logs, and DNS logs. It also uses integrated threat intelligence such as known malicious IP addresses, anomaly detection, and machine learning to identify threats more accurately. Disabling the service will delete all remaining data, including your findings and configurations, before relinquishing the service permissions and resetting the service. So, this is the correct option for our use case. Hence, disable the service in the general settings is the correct answer. References. Question 4. Amazon CloudFront offers a multi-tier cache in the form of regional edge caches that improve latency. However, there are certain content types that bypass the regional edge cache and go directly to the origin. Which of the following content types skip the regional edge cache? Select 2. Option A. E-commerce assets such as product photos. Option B. Static content such as style sheets, JavaScript files. Option C. Dynamic content, as determined at request time, cache behavior configured to forward all headers. Option D. Proxy methods put/post/patch/option/delete go directly to the origin. Option E. User-generated videos. Correct answer. Option C. Dynamic content, as determined at request time, cache behavior configured to forward all headers. Option D. Proxy methods put/post/patch/option/delete go directly to the origin. Explanation: Amazon CloudFront is a fast content delivery network, CDN, service that securely delivers data, videos, applications, and APIs to customers globally with low latency, high transfer speeds, all within a developer-friendly environment. CloudFront points of presence, POPs, edge locations, make sure that popular content can be served quickly to your viewers. CloudFront also has regional edge caches that bring more of your content closer to your viewers, even when the content is not popular enough to stay at a POP, to help improve performance for that content. Dynamic content, as determined at request time, cache behavior configured to forward all headers, does not flow through regional edge caches, but goes directly to the origin. So this option is correct. Proxy methods put/post/patch/option/delete go directly to the origin from the POPs and do not proxy through the regional edge caches. So this option is also correct. Hence, the following options are correct. Dynamic content, as determined at request time, cache behavior configured to forward all headers, proxy methods put/post/patch/option/delete go directly to the origin. References. Question 5. A media agency stores its recreatable assets on Amazon's simple storage service, Amazon S3, buckets. The assets are accessed by a large number of users for the first few days, and the frequency of access falls down drastically after a week. Although the assets would be accessed occasionally after the first week, but they must continue to be immediately accessible when required. The cost of maintaining all the assets on Amazon S3 storage is turning out to be very expensive, and the agency is looking at reducing costs as much as possible. As an AWS Certified Solutions Architect, Associate, can you suggest a way to lower the storage costs while fulfilling the business requirements? Option A. Configure a lifecycle policy to transition the objects to Amazon S3 One Zone and Frequent Access, S3 One Zone IA, after 7 days. Option B. Configure a lifecycle policy to transition the objects to Amazon S3 Standard and Frequent Access, S3 Standard IA, after 7 days. Option C. Configure a lifecycle policy to transition the objects to Amazon S3 Standard and Frequent Access, S3 Standard IA, after 30 days. Option D. Configure a lifecycle policy to transition the objects to Amazon S3 Zone and Frequent Access, S3 Zone IA, after 30 days. Correct answer. Option D. Configure a lifecycle policy to transition the objects to Amazon S3 Zone and Frequent Access, S3 Zone IA, after 30 days. Explanation: Amazon S3 Zone IA is for data that is accessed less frequently, but requires rapid access when needed. Unlike other S3 storage classes which store data in a minimum of 3 availability zones, AZs, Amazon S3 Zone IA stores data in a single availability zone, AZ, and costs 20% less than Amazon S3 Standard IA. Amazon S3 Zone IA is ideal for customers who want a lower cost option for infrequently accessed and recreatable data but do not require the availability and resilience of Amazon S3 Standard or Amazon S3 Standard IA. The minimum storage duration is 30 days before you can transition objects from Amazon S3 Standard to Amazon S3 Zone IA. Amazon S3 Zone IA offers the same high durability, high throughput, and low latency of Amazon S3 Standard, with a low per GB storage price and per GB retrieval fee. S3 storage classes can be configured at the object level, and a single bucket can contain objects stored across Amazon S3 Standard, Amazon S3 Intelligent Tiering, Amazon S3 Standard IA, and Amazon S3 Zone IA. You can also use S3 lifecycle policies to automatically transition objects between storage classes without any application changes. Hence, configure a lifecycle policy to transition the objects to Amazon S3 Zone and Frequent Access, S3 Zone IA, after 30 days is the correct answer. References. Question 6. A data analytics company measures what the consumers watch and what advertising they're exposed to. This real-time data is ingested into its on-premises data center and subsequently, the daily data feed is compressed into a single file and uploaded on Amazon S3 for backup. The typical compressed file size is around 2 GB. Which of the following is the fastest way to upload the daily compressed file into Amazon S3? Option A. FTP the compressed file into an Amazon EC2 instance that runs in the same region as the Amazon S3 bucket. Then transfer the file from the Amazon EC2 instance into the Amazon S3 bucket. Option B. Upload the compressed file in a single operation. Option C. Upload the compressed file using multi-part upload. Option D. Upload the compressed file using multi-part upload with Amazon S3 Transfer Acceleration, Amazon S3 SA. Correct answer. Option D. Upload the compressed file using multi-part upload with Amazon S3 Transfer Acceleration, Amazon S3 SA. Explanation: Amazon S3 Transfer Acceleration, Amazon S3 SA, enables fast, easy, and secure transfers of files over long distances between your client and an S3 bucket. Transfer acceleration takes advantage of Amazon CloudFront's globally distributed edge locations. As the data arrives at an edge location, data is routed to Amazon S3 over an optimized network path. Multi-part upload allows you to upload a single object as a set of parts. Each part is a contiguous portion of the object's data. You can upload these object parts independently and in any order. If transmission of any part fails, you can retransmit that part without affecting other parts. After all parts of your object are uploaded, Amazon S3 assembles these parts and creates the object. If you're uploading large objects over a stable high-bandwidth network, use multi-part uploading to maximize the use of your available bandwidth by uploading object parts in parallel for multi-threaded performance. If you're uploading over a spotty network, use multi-part uploading to increase resiliency to network errors by avoiding upload restarts. Hence, upload the compressed file using multi-part upload with Amazon S3 Transfer Acceleration, Amazon S3 SA, is the correct answer. References. Question 7. A big data consulting firm needs to set up a data lake on Amazon S3 for a healthcare client. The data lake is split in raw and refined zones. For compliance reasons, the source data needs to be kept for a minimum of 5 years. The source data arrives in the raw zone and is then processed via an AWS glue-based extract, transform, and load (ETL) job into the refined zone. The business analysts run ad hoc queries only on the data in the refined zone using Amazon Athena. The team is concerned about the cost of data storage in both the raw and refined zones as the data is increasing at a rate of 1 terabyte daily in each zone. As a solutions architect, which of the following would you recommend as the most cost-optimal solution? Select 2. Option A. Create an AWS Lambda function-based job to delete the raw zone data after 1 day. Option B. Set up a lifecycle policy to transition the raw zone data into Amazon S3 Glacier Deep Archive after 1 day of object creation. Option C. Use AWS Glue ETL job to write the transformed data in the refined zone using CSV format. Option D. Use AWS Glue ETL job to write the transformed data in the refined zone using a compressed file format. Option E. Set up a lifecycle policy to transition the refined zone data into Amazon S3 Glacier Deep Archive after 1 day of object creation. Correct answer. Option B. Set up a lifecycle policy to transition the raw zone data into Amazon S3 Glacier Deep Archive after 1 day of object creation. Option D. Use AWS Glue ETL job to write the transformed data in the refined zone using a compressed file format. Explanation: you can manage your objects so that they are stored cost-effectively throughout their life cycle by configuring their Amazon S3 lifecycle. An S3 lifecycle configuration is a set of rules that define actions that Amazon S3 applies to a group of objects. For example, you might choose to transition objects to the Amazon S3 standard IA storage class 30 days after you created them, or archive objects to the Amazon S3 Glacier storage class 1 year after creating them. For the given use case, the raw zone consists of the source data, so it cannot be deleted due to compliance reasons. Therefore, you should use a lifecycle policy to transition the raw zone data into Amazon S3 Glacier Deep Archive after 1 day of object creation. AWS Glue is a fully managed extract, transform, and load (ETL) service that makes it easy for customers to prepare and load their data for analytics. You cannot transition the refined zone data into Amazon S3 Glacier Deep Archive because it is used by the business analysts for ad hoc querying. Therefore, the best optimization is to have the refined zone data stored in a compressed format via the Glue job. The compressed data would reduce the storage cost incurred on the data in the refined zone. Hence, the following options are correct. Set up a lifecycle policy to transition the raw zone data into Amazon S3 Glacier Deep Archive after 1 day of object creation. Use AWS Glue ETL job to write the transformed data in the refined zone using a compressed file format. References. Question 8. A big data consulting firm is working on a client engagement where the extract, transform, and load (ETL) workloads are currently handled via a Hadoop cluster deployed in the on-premises data center. The client wants to migrate their ETL workloads to AWS Cloud. The AWS Cloud solution needs to be highly available with about 50 Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, Amazon EC2, instances per availability zone, AZ. As a solutions architect, which of the following Amazon EC2 placement groups would you recommend for handling the distributed ETL workload? Option A. Partition placement group. Option B. Spread placement group. Option C. Both spread placement group and partition placement group. Option D. Cluster placement group. Correct answer. Option A. Partition placement group. Explanation: you can use placement groups to influence the placement of a group of interdependent instances to meet the needs of your workload. Depending on the type of workload, you can create a placement group using one of the following placement strategies. Partition placement group spreads your instances across logical partitions such that groups of instances in one partition do not share the underlying hardware with groups of instances in different partitions. This strategy is typically used by large distributed and replicated workloads, such as Hadoop, Cassandra, and Kafka. Therefore, this is the correct option for the given use case. Hence, partition placement group is the correct answer. References. Question 9. Your company has an on-premises distributed file system replication, DFSR, service to keep files synchronized on multiple Windows servers, and would like to migrate to AWS Cloud. What do you recommend as a replacement for the DFSR? Option A. Amazon Elastic File System, Amazon EFS. Option B. Amazon FSx for Windows File Server. Option C. Amazon Simple Storage Service, Amazon S3. Option D. Amazon FSx for Lustre. Correct answer. Option B. Amazon FSx for Windows File Server. Explanation: Amazon FSx for Windows File Server provides fully managed, highly reliable file storage that is accessible over the industry standard Service Message Block (SMB) protocol. It is built on Windows Server, delivering a wide range of administrative features such as user quotas, end-user file restore, and Microsoft Active Directory (AD) integration. The Distributed File System Replication (DFSR) service is a new multi-master replication engine that is used to keep folders synchronized on multiple servers. Amazon FSx supports the use of Microsoft's Distributed File System (DFS) to organize shares into a single folder structure up to hundreds of PB in size. Amazon FSx for Windows is a perfect distributed file system, with replication capability, and can be mounted on Windows. Hence, Amazon FSx for Windows File Server is the correct answer. References. Question 10. Amazon EC2 auto scaling needs to terminate an instance from availability zone, AZ, US East 1, as it has the most number of instances amongst the availability zone, AZs, being used currently. There are 4 instances in the availability zone, AZ, US East 1 alike, so, Instance A has the oldest launch template, Instance B has the oldest launch configuration, Instance C has the newest launch configuration, and Instance D is closest to the next billing hour. Which of the following instances would be terminated per the default termination policy? Option A. Instance C. Option B. Instance D. Option C. Instance B. Option D. Instance A. Correct answer. Option C. Instance B. Explanation: per the default termination policy, the first priority is given to any allocation strategy for on-demand vs spot instances. As no such information has been provided for the given use case, so this criterion can be ignored. The next priority is to consider any instance with the oldest launch template unless there is an instance that uses a launch configuration. So this rules out instance A. Next, you need to consider any instance which has the oldest launch configuration. This implies instance B will be selected for termination and instance C will also be ruled out as it has the newest launch configuration. Instance D, which is closest to the next billing hour, is not selected as this criterion is last in the order of priority. Hence, instance B is the correct answer. References. Question 11. Which of the following IAM policies provides read-only access to the Amazon S3 bucket My Bucket and its content? Option A. Version 2012-10-17, statement effect allow, action S3 list bucket, S3 get object, resource arn AWS S3 my bucket /*. Option B. Version 2012-10-17, statement effect allow, action S3 list bucket, resource arn AWS S3 my bucket /*, effect allow, action S3 get object, resource arn AWS S3 my bucket. Option C. Version 2012-10-17, statement effect allow, action S3 list bucket, resource arn AWS S3 my bucket, effect allow, action S3 get object, resource arn AWS S3 my bucket /*. Option D. Version 2012-10-17, statement effect allow, action S3 list bucket, S3 get object, resource arn AWS S3 my bucket. Correct answer. Option C. Version 2012-10-17, statement effect allow, action S3 list bucket, resource arn AWS S3 my bucket, effect allow, action S3 get object, resource arn AWS S3 my bucket /*. Explanation: You manage access in AWS by creating policies and attaching them to IAM identities, users, groups of users or roles or AWS resources. A policy is an object in AWS that, when associated with an identity or resource, defines their permissions. AWS evaluates these policies when an IAM principal, user or role, makes a request. Permissions in the policies determine whether the request is allowed or denied. Most policies are stored in AWS as JSON documents. AWS supports 6 types of policies: identity-based policies, resource-based policies, permissions boundaries, service control policy, SCP, of AWS organizations, access control list, ACL, and session policies. S3 list bucket is applied to buckets, so the ARN is in the form resource arn AWS S3 my bucket, without a trailing /S3 get object is applied to objects within the bucket, so the ARN is in the form resource arn AWS S3 my bucket / with a trailing / to indicate all objects within the bucket my bucket. Hence, below option is correct answer. Version 2012-10-17, statement effect allow, action S3 list bucket, resource arn AWS S3 my bucket, effect allow, action S3 get object, resource arn AWS S3 my bucket /*. References. Question 12. An IT company provides Amazon Simple Storage Service, Amazon S3, bucket access to specific users within the same account for completing project-specific work. With changing business requirements, cross-account S3 access requests are also growing every month. The company is looking for a solution that can offer user-level as well as account-level access permissions for the data stored in Amazon S3 buckets. As a solutions architect, which of the following would you suggest as the most optimized way of controlling access for this use case? Option A. Use Identity and Access Management, IAM, policies. Option B. Use Amazon S3 bucket policies. Option C. Use Access Control Lists, ACLS. Option D. Use Security Groups. Correct answer. Option B. Use Amazon S3 bucket policies. Explanation: Bucket policies in Amazon S3 can be used to add or deny permissions across some or all of the objects within a single bucket. Policies can be attached to users, groups, or Amazon S3 buckets, enabling centralized management of permissions. With bucket policies, you can grant users within your AWS account or other AWS accounts access to your Amazon S3 resources. You can further restrict access to specific resources based on certain conditions. For example, you can restrict access based on request time, date condition, whether the request was sent using SSL, Boolean conditions, a requester's IP address condition, or based on the requester's client application, string conditions. To identify these conditions, you use policy keys. Hence, use Amazon S3 bucket policies is the correct answer. References. Question 13. A leading bank has moved its IT infrastructure to AWS Cloud and they have been using Amazon EC2 auto-scaling for their web servers. This has helped them deal with traffic spikes effectively. But, their MySQL relational database has now become a bottleneck and they urgently need a fully managed auto-scaling solution for their relational database to address any unpredictable changes in the traffic. Can you identify the AWS service that is best suited for this use case? Option A. Amazon Elasticsearch. Option B. Amazon Aurora. Option C. Amazon DynamoDB. Option D. Amazon Aurora Serverless. Correct answer. Option D. Amazon Aurora Serverless. Explanation: Amazon Aurora Serverless is an on-demand, auto-scaling configuration for Amazon Aurora, MySQL-compatible and PostgreSQL-compatible editions, where the database will automatically start up, shut down, and scale capacity up or down based on your application's needs. It enables you to run your database in the cloud without managing any database instances. It's a simple, cost-effective option for infrequent, intermittent, or unpredictable workloads. You pay on a per-second basis for the database capacity you use when the database is active and migrate between standard and serverless configurations with a few clicks in the Amazon RDS Management Console. Hence, Amazon Aurora Serverless is the correct answer. References. Question 14. An AWS organization is using Service Control Policies, SCPs, for central control over the maximum available permissions for all accounts in their organization. This allows the organization to ensure that all accounts stay within the organization's access control guidelines. Which of the given scenarios are correct regarding the permissions described below? Select 3. Option A. Service Control Policy, SCP, does not affect service-linked role. Option B. If a user or role has an IAM permission policy that grants access to an action that is either not allowed or explicitly denied by the applicable service control policy, SCP, the user or role can still perform that action. Option C. Service Control Policy, SCP, affects all users and roles in the member accounts, including root user of the member accounts. Option D. If a user or role has an IAM permission policy that grants access to an action that is either not allowed or explicitly denied by the applicable service control policy, SCP, the user or role can't perform that action. Option E. Service Control Policy, SCP, affects service-linked roles. Option F. Service Control Policy, SCP, affects all users and roles in the member accounts, excluding root user of the member accounts. Correct answer. Option A. Service Control Policy, SCP, does not affect service-linked role. Option C. Service Control Policy, SCP, affects all users and roles in the member accounts, including root user of the member accounts. Option D. If a user or role has an IAM permission policy that grants access to an action that is either not allowed or explicitly denied by the applicable service control policy, SCP, the user or role can't perform that action. Explanation: Service Control Policy, SCP, are one type of policy that can be used to manage your organization. Service Control Policy, SCP, offers central control over the maximum available permissions for all accounts in your organization, allowing you to ensure your accounts stay within your organization's access control guidelines. In Service Control Policy, SCP, you can restrict which AWS services, resources, and individual API actions the users and roles in each member account can access. You can also define conditions for when to restrict access to AWS services, resources, and API actions. These restrictions even override the administrators of member accounts in the organization. Hence, the following options are correct. If a user or role has an IAM permission policy that grants access to an action that is either not allowed or explicitly denied by the applicable service control policy, SCP, the user or role can't perform that action. Service control policy, SCP, affects all users and roles in the member accounts, including root user of the member account's. Service control policy, SCP, does not affect service-linked role. References. Question 15. An e-commerce company has deployed its application on several Amazon EC2 instances that are configured in a private subnet using IPv4. These Amazon EC2 instances read and write a huge volume of data to and from Amazon S3 in the same AWS region. The company has set up subnet routing to direct all the internet-bound traffic through a network address translation gateway, NAT gateway. The company wants to build the most cost-optimal solution without impacting the application's ability to communicate with Amazon S3 or the internet. As an AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate, which of the following would you recommend? Option A. Set up a Gateway Load Balancer, GWLB, endpoint for Amazon S3. Update the route table in the private subnet to direct the S3 bound traffic via the Gateway Load Balancer, GWLB, endpoint. Option B. Provision an Internet Gateway. Update the route table in the private subnet to route traffic to the Internet Gateway. Update the network ACL, NACL, to allow the S3 bound traffic. Option C. Set up a VPC gateway endpoint for Amazon S3. Attach an endpoint policy to the endpoint. Update the route table to direct the S3 bound traffic to the VPC endpoint. Option D. Set up an egress-only Internet gateway in the public subnet. Update the route table in the private subnet to route traffic to the Internet gateway. Update the network ACL to allow the S3 bound traffic. Correct answer. Option C. Set up a VPC gateway endpoint for Amazon S3. Attach an endpoint policy to the endpoint. Update the route table to direct the S3 bound traffic to the VPC endpoint. Explanation: gateway endpoints provide reliable connectivity to Amazon S3 without requiring an internet gateway or a NAT device for your VPC. After you create the gateway endpoint, you can add it as a target in your route table for traffic destined from your VPC to Amazon S3. There is no additional charge for using gateway endpoints. The VPC endpoint policy for the gateway endpoint controls access to Amazon S3 from the VPC through the endpoint. The default policy allows full access. Hence, set up a VPC gateway endpoint for Amazon S3. Attach an endpoint policy to the endpoint. Update the route table to direct the S3 bound traffic to the VPC endpoint is the correct answer. References. Question 16. A company has hired you as an AWS Certified Solutions Architect, Associate to help with redesigning a real-time data processor. The company wants to build custom applications that process and analyze the streaming data for its specialized needs. Which solution will you recommend to address this use case? Option A. Use Amazon Simple Notification Service, Amazon SNS, to process the data streams as well as decouple the producers and consumers for the real-time data processor. Option B. Use Amazon Simple Queue Service, Amazon SQS, to process the data streams as well as decouple the producers and consumers for the real-time data processor. Option C. Use Amazon Kinesis data streams to process the data streams as well as decouple the producers and consumers for the real-time data processor. Option D. Use Amazon Kinesis data firehose to process the data streams as well as decouple the producers and consumers for the real-time data processor. Correct answer. Option C. Use Amazon Kinesis data streams to process the data streams as well as decouple the producers and consumers for the real-time data processor. Explanation: Amazon Kinesis data streams is useful for rapidly moving data off data producers and then continuously processing the data, be it to transform the data before emitting to a data store, run real-time metrics and analytics, or derive more complex data streams for further processing. Kinesis data streams can continuously capture gigabytes of data per second from hundreds of thousands of sources such as website click streams, database event streams, financial transactions, social media feeds, IT logs, and location tracking events. Hence, use Amazon Kinesis data streams to process the data streams as well as decouple the producers and consumers for the real-time data processor is the correct answer. References. Question 17. The engineering team at a company wants to use Amazon Simple Queue Service, Amazon SQS, to decouple components of the underlying application architecture. However, the team is concerned about the VPC-bound components accessing Amazon Simple Queue Service, Amazon SQS, over the public internet. As a solutions architect, which of the following solutions would you recommend to address this use case? Option A. Use VPC endpoint to access Amazon SQS. Option B. Use VPN connection to access Amazon SQS. Option C. Use Internet Gateway to access Amazon SQS. Option D. Use Network Address Translation, NAT, instance to access Amazon SQS. Correct answer. Option A. Use VPC endpoint to access Amazon SQS. Explanation: AWS customers can access Amazon Simple Queue Service, Amazon SQS, from their Amazon Virtual Private Cloud, Amazon VPC, using VPC endpoints, without using public IPS, and without needing to traverse the public internet. VPC endpoints for Amazon SQS are powered by AWS Private Link, a highly available, scalable technology that enables you to privately connect your VPC to supported AWS services. Amazon VPC endpoints are easy to configure. They also provide reliable connectivity to Amazon SQS without requiring an Internet Gateway, Network Address Translation, NAT, instance, VPN connection, or AWS Direct Connect connection. With VPC endpoints, the data between your Amazon VPC and Amazon SQS queue is transferred within the Amazon network, helping protect your instances from internet traffic. AWS Private Link simplifies the security of data shared with cloud-based applications by eliminating the exposure of data to the public internet. AWS Private Link provides private connectivity between VPCs, AWS services, and on-premises applications, securely on the Amazon network. AWS Private Link makes it easy to connect services across different accounts and VPCs to significantly simplify the network architecture. Hence, use VPC endpoint to access Amazon SQS is the correct answer. References. Question 18. A photo hosting service publishes a collection of beautiful mountain images, every month, that aggregate over 50 gigabytes in size and downloaded all around the world. The content is currently hosted on Amazon EFS and distributed by Elastic Load Balancing, ELB, and Amazon EC2 instances. The website is experiencing high load each month and very high network costs. As a solutions architect, what can you recommend that won't force an application refactor and reduce network costs and Amazon EC2 load drastically? Option A. Enable Elastic Load Balancing, ELB, caching. Option B. Host the master pack onto Amazon S3 for faster access. Option C. Create an Amazon CloudFront distribution. Option D. Upgrade the Amazon EC2 instances. Correct answer. Option C. Create an Amazon CloudFront distribution. Explanation: Amazon CloudFront is a fast content delivery network, CDN, service that securely delivers data, videos, applications, and APIs to customers globally with low latency, high transfer speeds, all within a developer-friendly environment. Amazon CloudFront points of presence, POPs, edge locations, make sure that popular content can be served quickly to your viewers. Amazon CloudFront also has regional edge caches that bring more of your content closer to your viewers, even when the content is not popular enough to stay at a POP, to help improve performance for that content. Regional edge caches help with all types of content, particularly content that tends to become less popular over time. Examples include user-generated content, such as video, photos, or artwork, e-commerce assets such as product photos and videos, and news and event-related content that might suddenly find new popularity. For the given use case, you need to create an Amazon CloudFront distribution to add a caching layer in front of your ELB. That caching layer will be very effective as the image pack is a static file, and therefore it would save the network costs significantly without requiring an application refactor. Hence, create an Amazon CloudFront distribution is the correct answer. References. Question 19. The engineering team at a leading e-commerce company is anticipating a surge in the traffic because of a flash sale planned for the weekend. You have estimated the web traffic to be 10x. The content of your website is highly dynamic and changes very often. As a solutions architect, which of the following options would you recommend to make sure your infrastructure scales for that day? Option A. Use an Amazon CloudFront distribution in front of your website. Option B. Use an Amazon Route 53 multi-value record. Option C. Deploy the website on Amazon S3. Option D. Use an auto-scaling group. Correct answer. Option D. Use an auto-scaling group. Explanation: an auto-scaling group, ASG, contains a collection of Amazon EC2 instances that are treated as a logical grouping for automatic scaling and management. An auto-scaling group also enables you to use Amazon EC2 auto-scaling features such as health check replacements and scaling policies. Both maintaining the number of instances in an auto-scaling group and automatic scaling are the core functionality of the Amazon EC2 auto-scaling service. The size of an auto-scaling group depends on the number of instances that you set as the desired capacity. You can adjust its size to meet demand, either manually or by using automatic scaling. An auto-scaling group starts by launching enough instances to meet its desired capacity. It maintains this number of instances by performing periodic health checks on the instances in the group. The auto-scaling group continues to maintain a fixed number of instances even if an instance becomes unhealthy. If an instance becomes unhealthy, the group terminates the unhealthy instance and launches another instance to replace it. Hence, use an auto-scaling group is the correct answer. References. Question 20. A CRM company has a software as a service, SaaS, application that feeds updates to other in-house and third-party applications. The SaaS application and the in-house applications are being migrated to use AWS services for this inter-application communication. As a solutions architect, which of the following would you suggest to asynchronously decouple the architecture? Option A. Use Amazon Simple Notification Service, Amazon SNS, to communicate between systems and decouple the architecture. Option B. Use Amazon Event Bridge to decouple the system architecture. Option C. Use Amazon Simple Queue Service, Amazon SQS, to decouple the architecture. Option D. Use elastic load balancing, ELB, for effective decoupling of system architecture. Correct answer. Option B. Use Amazon Event Bridge to decouple the system architecture. Explanation: both Amazon Event Bridge and Amazon SNS can be used to develop event-driven applications, but for this use case, Event Bridge is the right fit. Amazon Event Bridge is recommended when you want to build an application that reacts to events from SaaS applications and or AWS services. Amazon Event Bridge is the only event-based service that integrates directly with third-party SaaS partners. Amazon Event Bridge also automatically ingests events from over 90 AWS services without requiring developers to create any resources in their account. Further, Amazon Event Bridge uses a defined JSON-based structure for events and allows you to create rules that are applied across the entire event body to select events to forward to a target. Amazon Event Bridge currently supports over 15 AWS services as targets, including AWS Lambda, Amazon SQS, Amazon SNS, and Amazon Kinesis Streams and Firehose, among others. At launch, Amazon Event Bridge has limited throughput, see service limits, which can be increased upon request, and typical latency of around half a second. Hence, use Amazon Event Bridge to decouple the system architecture is the correct answer. References. Question 21. A leading e-commerce company runs its IT infrastructure on AWS Cloud. The company has a batch job running at 7 a.m. daily on an Amazon RDS database. It processes shipping orders for the past day, and usually gets around 2,000 records that need to be processed sequentially in a batch job via a shell script. The processing of each record takes about 3 seconds. What platform do you recommend to run this batch job? Option A. Amazon Kinesis Data Streams. Option B. AWS Lambda. Option C. Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, Amazon EC2. Option D. AWS Glue. Correct answer. Option C. Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, Amazon EC2. Explanation: Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, Amazon EC2, is a web service that provides secure, resizable compute capacity in the cloud. It is designed to make web-scale cloud computing easier for developers. Amazon EC2's simple web service interface allows you to obtain and configure capacity with minimal friction. It provides you with complete control of your computing resources and lets you run on Amazon's proven computing environment. AWS Batch can be used to plan, schedule, and execute your batch computing workloads on Amazon EC2 instances. Amazon EC2 is the right choice as it can accommodate batch processing and run customized scripts, as is the needed requirement. Hence, Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, Amazon EC2, is the correct answer. References. Question 22. A company has noticed that its Amazon EBS Elastic Volume, IO1, accounts for 90% of the cost and the remaining 10% cost can be attributed to the Amazon EC2 instance. The Amazon CloudWatch metrics report that both the Amazon EC2 instance and the Amazon EBS volume are underutilized. The Amazon CloudWatch metrics also show that the Amazon EBS volume has occasional I/O bursts. The entire infrastructure is managed by AWS CloudFormation. As a solutions architect, what do you propose to reduce the costs? Option A. Don't use a AWS CloudFormation template to create the database, as the AWS CloudFormation service incurs greater service charges. Option B. Convert the Amazon EC2 instance EBS volume to GP2. Option C. Keep the Amazon EBS volume to IO1 and reduce the IOPS. Option D. Change the Amazon EC2 instance type to something much smaller. Correct answer. Option B. Convert the Amazon EC2 instance EBS volume to GP2. Explanation: Amazon EBS provides the various volume types that differ in performance characteristics and price so that you can tailor your storage performance and cost to the needs of your applications. The volumes types fall into two categories: SSD-backed volumes optimized for transactional workloads involving frequent read/write operations with small I/O size, where the dominant performance attribute is IOPS. HDD-backed volumes optimized for large streaming workloads where throughput, measured in MIB/S, is a better performance measure than IOPS. Provisioned IOPS SSD, IO1, volumes are designed to meet the needs of I/O intensive workloads, particularly database workloads, that are sensitive to storage performance and consistency. Unlike GP2, which uses a bucket and credit model to calculate performance, an IO1 volume allows you to specify a consistent IOPS rate when you create the volume, and Amazon EBS delivers the provisioned performance 99.9% of the time. General purpose SSD, GP2, volumes offer cost-effective storage that is ideal for a broad range of workloads. These volumes deliver single-digit millisecond latencies and the ability to burst to 3000 IOPS for an extended duration. Between a minimum of 100 IOPS, at 33.33 GB and below, and a maximum of 16,000 IOPS, at 5,334 GB and above, baseline performance scales linearly at 3 IOPS per GB of volume size. AWS designs GP2 volumes to deliver a provisioned performance of 99% uptime. A GP2 volume can range in size from 1 GB to 16 TB. Therefore, GP2 is the right choice as it is more cost-effective than IO1, and it also allows a burst in performance when needed. Hence, convert the Amazon EC2 instance EBS volume to GP2 is the correct answer. References. Question 23. A healthcare company manages its web application on Amazon EC2 instances running behind Auto Scaling Group, ASG. The company provides ambulances for critical patients and needs the application to be reliable. The workload of the company can be managed on 2 Amazon EC2 instances and can peak up to 6 instances when traffic increases. As a solutions architect, which of the following configurations would you select as the best fit for these requirements? Option A. The auto scaling group should be configured with the minimum capacity set to 4, with 2 instances each in 2 different AWS regions. The maximum capacity of the auto scaling group should be set to 6. Option B. The auto scaling group should be configured with the minimum capacity set to 4, with 2 instances each in 2 different availability zones. The maximum capacity of the auto scaling group should be set to 6. Option C. The auto scaling group should be configured with the minimum capacity set to 2, with 1 instance each in 2 different availability zones. The maximum capacity of the auto scaling group should be set to 6. Option D. The auto scaling group should be configured with the minimum capacity set to 2 and the maximum capacity set to 6 in a single availability zone. Correct answer. Option B. The auto scaling group should be configured with the minimum capacity set to 4, with 2 instances each in 2 different availability zones. The maximum capacity of the auto scaling group should be set to 6. Explanation: you configure the size of your auto scaling group by setting the minimum, maximum, and desired capacity. The minimum and maximum capacity are required to create an auto scaling group, while the desired capacity is optional. If you do not define your desired capacity upfront, it defaults to your minimum capacity. Amazon EC2 auto scaling enables you to take advantage of the safety and reliability of geographic redundancy by spanning auto scaling groups across multiple availability zones within a region. When one availability zone becomes unhealthy or unavailable, auto scaling launches new instances in an unaffected availability zone. When the unhealthy availability zone returns to a healthy state, auto scaling automatically redistributes the application instances evenly across all of the designated availability zones. Since the application is extremely critical and needs to have a reliable architecture to support it, the Amazon EC2 instances should be maintained in at least 2 availability zones, AZs, for uninterrupted service. Amazon EC2 auto-scaling attempts to distribute instances evenly between the availability zones that are enabled for your auto-scaling group. This is why the minimum capacity should be 4 instances and not 2. Auto-scaling group will launch 2 instances each in both the AZs, and this redundancy is needed to keep the service available always. Hence, the auto-scaling group should be configured with the minimum capacity set to 4, with 2 instances each in 2 different availability zones. The maximum capacity of the auto-scaling group should be set to 6 is the correct answer. References. Question 24. Reporters at a news agency upload/download video files, about 500 megabytes each, to/ from an Amazon S3 bucket as part of their daily work. As the agency has started offices in remote locations, it has resulted in poor latency for uploading and accessing data to/ from the given Amazon S3 bucket. The agency wants to continue using a serverless storage solution such as Amazon S3 but wants to improve the performance. As a solutions architect, which of the following solutions do you propose to address this issue? Select 2. Option A. Use Amazon CloudFront distribution with origin as the Amazon S3 bucket. This would speed up uploads as well as downloads for the video files. Option B. Spin up Amazon EC2 instances in each region where the agency has a remote office. Create a daily job to transfer Amazon S3 data into Amazon EBS volumes attached to the Amazon EC2 instances. Option C. Move Amazon S3 data into Amazon Elastic File System, Amazon EFS, created in a US region, connect to Amazon EFS file system from Amazon EC2 instances in other AWS regions using an inter-region VPC peering connection. Option D. Create new Amazon S3 buckets in every region where the agency has a remote office, so that each office can maintain its storage for the media assets. Option E. Enable Amazon S3 transfer acceleration, Amazon S3 TA, for the Amazon S3 bucket. This would speed up uploads as well as downloads for the video files. Correct answer. Option A. Use Amazon CloudFront distribution with origin as the Amazon S3 bucket. This would speed up uploads as well as downloads for the video files. Option A. Enable Amazon S3 transfer acceleration, Amazon S3 TA, for the Amazon S3 bucket. This would speed up uploads as well as downloads for the video files. Explanation: Amazon CloudFront is a fast content delivery network, CDN, service that securely delivers data, videos, applications, and APIs to customers globally with low latency, high transfer speeds, within a developer-friendly environment. When an object from Amazon S3 that is set up with Amazon CloudFront CDN is requested, the request would come through the edge location transfer paths only for the first request. Thereafter, it would be served from the nearest edge location to the users until it expires. So in this way, you can speed up uploads as well as downloads for the video files. Amazon S3 transfer acceleration, Amazon S3 TA, can speed up content transfers to and from Amazon S3 by as much as 50 to 500% for long-distance transfer of larger objects. Transfer acceleration takes advantage of Amazon CloudFront's globally distributed edge locations. As the data arrives at an edge location, data is routed to Amazon S3 over an optimized network path. So this option is also correct. Hence, the following options are correct. Use Amazon CloudFront distribution with origin as the Amazon S3 bucket. This would speed up uploads as well as downloads for the video files. Enable Amazon S3 transfer acceleration, Amazon S3 TA, for the Amazon S3 bucket. This would speed up uploads as well as downloads for the video files. References. Question 25. A mobile chat application uses Amazon DynamoDB as its database service to provide low-latency chat updates. A new developer has joined the team and is reviewing the configuration settings for Amazon DynamoDB, which have been tweaked for certain technical requirements. AWS CloudTrail service has been enabled on all the resources used for the project. Yet, Amazon DynamoDB encryption details are nowhere to be found. Which of the following options can explain the root cause for the given issue? Option A. By default, all Amazon DynamoDB tables are encrypted using AWS-owned keys, which do not write to AWS CloudTrail logs. Option B. By default, all Amazon DynamoDB tables are encrypted under AWS managed keys, which do not write to AWS CloudTrail logs. Option C. By default, all Amazon DynamoDB tables are encrypted under customer managed keys, which do not write to AWS CloudTrail logs. Option D. By default, all Amazon DynamoDB tables are encrypted using data keys, which do not write to AWS CloudTrail logs. Correct answer. Option A. By default, all Amazon DynamoDB tables are encrypted using AWS-owned keys, which do not write to AWS CloudTrail logs. Explanation: AWS-owned keys are not stored in your AWS account. They are part of a collection of KMS keys that AWS owns and manages for use in multiple AWS accounts. AWS services can use AWS-owned keys to protect your data. AWS-owned keys used by DynamoDB are rotated every year, approximately 365 days. You cannot view, manage, or use AWS-owned keys, or audit their use. However, you do not need to do any work or change any programs to protect the keys that encrypt your data. You are not charged a monthly fee or a usage fee for use of AWS-owned keys, and they do not count against AWS KMS quotas for your account. All DynamoDB tables are encrypted. There is no option to enable or disable encryption for new or existing tables. By default, all tables are encrypted under an AWS-owned key in the DynamoDB service account. However, you can select an option to encrypt some or all of your tables under a customer managed key or the AWS managed key for DynamoDB in your account. Hence, by default, all Amazon DynamoDB tables are encrypted using AWS-owned keys, which do not write to AWS CloudTrail logs is the correct answer. References. Question 26. The engineering team at an e-commerce company uses an AWS Lambda function to write the order data into a single DB instance Amazon Aurora cluster. The team has noticed that many order writes to its Aurora cluster are getting missed during peak load times. The diagnostics data has revealed that the database is experiencing high CPU and memory consumption during traffic spikes. The team also wants to enhance the availability of the Aurora DB. Which of the following steps would you combine to address the given scenario? Select 2. Option A. Create a standby Aurora instance in another availability zone to improve the availability, as the standby can serve as a failover target. Option B. Use Amazon EC2 instances behind an application load balancer to write the order data into Amazon Aurora cluster. Option C. Increase the concurrency of the AWS Lambda function so that the order writes do not get missed during traffic spikes. Option D. Create a replica Aurora instance in another availability zone to improve the availability, as the replica can serve as a failover target. Option E. Handle all read operations for your application by connecting to the reader endpoint of the Amazon Aurora cluster so that Aurora can spread the load for read-only connections across the Aurora replica. Correct answer. Option D. Create a replica Aurora instance in another availability zone to improve the availability, as the replica can serve as a failover target. Option E. Handle all read operations for your application by connecting to the reader endpoint of the Amazon Aurora cluster so that Aurora can spread the load for read-only connections across the Aurora replica. Explanation: when you create a second, third, and so on DB instance in an Aurora provisioned DB cluster, Aurora automatically sets up replication from the writer DB instance to all the other DB instances. These other DB instances are read-only and are known as Aurora replicas. Aurora replicas have two main purposes. You can issue queries to them to scale the read operations for your application. You typically do so by connecting to the reader endpoint of the cluster. That way, Aurora can spread the load for read-only connections across as many Aurora replicas as you have in the cluster. Aurora replicas also help to increase availability. If the writer instance in a cluster becomes unavailable, Aurora automatically promotes one of the reader instances to take its place as the new writer. If the primary instance in a DB cluster using single master replication fails, Aurora automatically fails over to a new primary instance in one of two ways: by promoting an existing Aurora replica to the new primary instance by creating a new primary instance. Hence, the following options are correct. Handle all read operations for your application by connecting to the reader endpoint of the Amazon Aurora cluster so that Aurora can spread the load for read-only connections across the Aurora replica. Create a replica Aurora instance in another availability zone to improve the availability, as the replica can serve as a failover target. References. Question 27. A developer in your team has set up a classic 3-tier architecture composed of an application load balancer, an auto-scaling group managing a fleet of Amazon EC2 instances, and an Amazon Aurora database. As a solutions architect, you would like to adhere to the security pillar of the well-architected framework. How do you configure the security group of the Aurora database to only allow traffic coming from the Amazon EC2 instances? Option A. Add a rule authorizing the Amazon EC2 security group. Option B. Add a rule authorizing the Elastic Load Balancing security group. Option C. Add a rule authorizing the Amazon Aurora security group. Option D. Add a rule authorizing the auto-scaling group subnet CIDR. Correct answer. Option A. Add a rule authorizing the Amazon EC2 security group. Explanation: a security group acts as a virtual firewall that controls the traffic for one or more instances. When you launch an instance, you can specify one or more security groups, otherwise, we use the default security group. You can add rules to each security group that allow traffic to or from its associated instances. You can modify the rules for a security group at any time. The new rules are automatically applied to all instances that are associated with the security group. When we decide whether to allow traffic to reach an instance, we evaluate all the rules from all the security groups that are associated with the instance. The following are the characteristics of security group rules. By default, security groups allow all outbound traffic. Security group rules are always permissive. You can't create rules that deny access. Security groups are stateful. For the given scenario, the Amazon EC2 instances that are part of the auto-scaling group are the ones accessing the database layer. The correct response is to add a rule to the security group attached to Aurora authorizing the Amazon EC2 instances security group. Hence, add a rule authorizing the Amazon EC2 security group is the correct answer. References. Question 28. A solutions architect has been tasked to design a low-latency solution for a static, single-page application, accessed by users through a custom domain name. The solution must be serverless, provide in-transit data encryption, and needs to be cost-effective. Which AWS services can be combined to build the simplest possible solution for the company's requirement? Option A. Configure Amazon S3 to store the static data and use AWS Fargate for hosting the application. Option B. Use Amazon S3 to host the static website and Amazon CloudFront to distribute the content for low latency access. Option C. Host the application on AWS Fargate and front it with elastic load balancing for an improved performance. Option D. Host the application on Amazon EC2 instance with instance store volume for high performance and low latency access to users. Correct answer. Option B. Use Amazon S3 to host the static website and Amazon CloudFront to distribute the content for low latency access. Explanation: to host a static website on Amazon S3, you configure an Amazon S3 bucket for website hosting and then upload your website content to the bucket. When you configure a bucket as a static website, you must enable website hosting, set permissions, and create and add an index document. Depending on your website requirements, you can also configure redirects, web traffic logging, and a custom error document. After you configure your bucket as a static website, you can access the bucket through the AWS region-specific Amazon S3 website endpoints for your bucket. Website endpoints are different from the endpoints where you send REST API requests. Amazon S3 doesn't support HTTPS access for website endpoints. If you want to use HTTPS, you can use CloudFront to serve a static website hosted on Amazon S3. You can use Amazon CloudFront to improve the performance of your website. CloudFront makes your website files, such as HTML, images, and video, available from data centers around the world, called edge locations. When a visitor requests a file from your website, Amazon CloudFront automatically redirects the request to a copy of the file at the nearest edge location. This results in faster download times than if the visitor had requested the content from a data center that is located farther away. Amazon CloudFront caches content at edge locations for a period of time that you specify. If a visitor requests content that has been cached for longer than the expiration date, Amazon CloudFront checks the origin server to see if a newer version of the content is available. If a newer version is available, Amazon CloudFront copies the new version to the edge location. Changes that you make to the original content are replicated to edge locations as visitors request the content. Hence, using Amazon S3 to host the static website and Amazon CloudFront to distribute the content for low latency access is the correct answer. References. Question 29. An Internet of Things, IoT, company is planning on distributing a master sensor in people's homes to measure the key metrics from its smart devices. In order to provide adjustment commands for these devices, the company would like to have a streaming system that supports ordered data based on the sensor's key, and also sustains high throughput messages, thousands of messages per second. As a solutions architect, which of the following AWS services would you recommend for this use case? Option A. AWS Lambda. Option B. Amazon Simple Notification Service, Amazon SNS. Option C. Amazon Simple Queue Service, Amazon SQS. Option D. Amazon Kinesis Data Streams. Correct answer. Option D. Amazon Kinesis Data Streams. Explanation: Amazon Kinesis Data Streams, KDS, is a massively scalable and durable real-time data streaming service. KDS can continuously capture gigabytes of data per second from hundreds of thousands of sources such as website click streams, database event streams, financial transactions, social media feeds, IT logs, and location tracking events. The throughput of an Amazon Kinesis data stream is designed to scale without limits via increasing the number of shards within a data stream. However, there are certain limits you should keep in mind while using Amazon Kinesis data streams. A Kinesis data stream stores records for 24 hours by default, up to 8,760 hours, 365 days. The maximum size of a data blob, the data payload before base 64 encoding, within one record is 1 megabyte, MB. Each shard can support up to 1,000 put records per second. Kinesis is the right answer here, as by providing a partition key in your message, you can guarantee ordered messages for a specific sensor, even if your stream is sharded. Hence, Amazon Kinesis Data Streams is the correct answer. References. Question 30. A company maintains its business-critical customer data on an on-premises system in an encrypted format. Over the years, the company has transitioned from using a single encryption key to multiple encryption keys by dividing the data into logical chunks. With the decision to move all the data to an Amazon S3 bucket, the company is now looking for a technique to encrypt each file with a different encryption key to provide maximum security to the migrated on-premises data. How will you implement this requirement without adding the overhead of splitting the data into logical groups? Option A. Configure a single Amazon S3 bucket to hold all data. Use server-side encryption with Amazon S3 managed keys, SSE-S3, to encrypt the data. Option B. Configure a single Amazon S3 bucket to hold all data. Use server-side encryption with AWS KMS, SSE KMS, and use encryption context to generate a different key for each file/object that you store in the S3 bucket. Option C. Use multi-region keys for client-side encryption in the AWS S3 encryption client to generate unique keys for each file of data. Option D. Store the logically divided data into different Amazon S3 buckets. Use server-side encryption with Amazon S3 managed keys, SSE-S3, to encrypt the data. Correct answer. Option A. Configure a single Amazon S3 bucket to hold all data. Use server-side encryption with Amazon S3 managed keys, SSE-S3, to encrypt the data. Explanation: server-side encryption is the encryption of data at its destination by the application or service that receives it. Amazon S3 encrypts your data at the object level as it writes it to disks in its data centers and decrypts it for you when you access it. When you use server-side encryption with Amazon S3 managed keys, SSE-S3, each object is encrypted with a unique key. As an additional safeguard, it encrypts the key itself with a root key that it regularly rotates. Note: Amazon S3 now applies server-side encryption with Amazon S3 managed keys, SSE-S3, as the base level of encryption for every bucket in Amazon S3. Starting January 5, 2023, all new object uploads to Amazon S3 will be automatically encrypted at no additional cost and with no impact on performance. Hence, configure a single Amazon S3 bucket to hold all data. Use server-side encryption with Amazon S3 managed keys, SSE-S3, to encrypt the data is the correct answer. References. Question 31. A company's real-time streaming application is running on AWS. As the data is ingested, a job runs on the data and takes 30 minutes to complete. The workload frequently experiences high latency due to large amounts of incoming data. A solutions architect needs to design a scalable and serverless solution to enhance performance. Which combination of steps should the solutions architect take? Select 2. Option A. Set up Amazon Kinesis data streams to ingest the data. Option B. Set up AWS Lambda with AWS step functions to process the data. Option C. Set up AWS Database Migration Service, AWS DMS, to ingest the data. Option D. Set up AWS Fargate with Amazon ECS to process the data. Option E. Provision Amazon EC2 instances in an auto-scaling group to process the data. Correct answer. Option A. Set up Amazon Kinesis data streams to ingest the data. Option D. Set up AWS Fargate with Amazon ECS to process the data. Explanation: Amazon Kinesis Data Streams, KDS, is a massively scalable and durable real-time data streaming service. KDS can continuously capture gigabytes of data per second from hundreds of thousands of sources such as website click streams, database event streams, financial transactions, social media feeds, IT logs, and location tracking events. The data collected is available in milliseconds to enable real-time analytics use cases such as real-time dashboards, real-time anomaly detection, dynamic pricing, and more. AWS Fargate is a serverless compute engine for containers that works with both Amazon Elastic Container Service, ECS, and Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Service, EKS. Fargate makes it easy for you to focus on building your applications. Fargate removes the need to provision and manage servers, lets you specify and pay for resources per application, and improves security through application isolation by design. For the given use case, we can use Kinesis data streams as the ingestion layer and the Containerist ECS application on AWS Fargate as the processing layer. Both these components are serverless and can scale to offer the desired performance. Hence, the following options are correct. Set up Amazon Kinesis data streams to ingest the data. Set up AWS Fargate with Amazon ECS to process the data. References. Question 32. Which one of the following is controlled by a security group attached to an instance? Option A. Database error codes. Option B. Inbound traffic. Option C. NACLs. Option D. HTTP error codes. Correct answer. Option B. Inbound traffic. Explanation: security groups control inbound and outbound traffic. They do not control error codes of any kind or NACLs, which are applied to the subnet and not to instances. Hence, inbound traffic is the correct answer. Question 33. You have 5 elastic IP addresses in a region. How many more can you create within that region without contacting support to request more? Option A. 0. Option B. 1. Option C. 5. Option D. 2. Correct answer. Option A. 0. Explanation: the default limit is 5 per region. Therefore, with 5 already created, you cannot create any more without requesting an extension. Hence, 0 is the correct answer. Question 34. What AWS tool can be used to estimate the cost of storage for an AWS solution? Option A. AWS Cost Explorer. Option B. AWS Cost and Usage Report. Option C. AWS Pricing Calculator. Option D. AWS Budgets. Correct answer. Option C. AWS Pricing Calculator. Explanation: the AWS Pricing Calculator can be used to estimate costs for the major AWS services including S3 and EC2. The other listed items are used to work with costs related to actual implemented solutions. Hence, AWS Pricing Calculator is the correct answer. Question 35. You must attach an EBS volume to an EC2 instance that offers the highest level of performance. What EBS type should be used? Option A. Provisioned IOPS SSD. Option B. General SSD. Option C. Striped SSD. Option D. Magnetic. Correct answer. Option A. Provisioned IOPS SSD. Explanation: a provisioned IOPS SSD will provide the optimum performance. A general SSD would be next. Magnetic storage provides the least performance, but it also provides the least cost. You do not directly control the physical implementation of disks, so you cannot select disk striping or mirroring at the physical level. Hence, Provisioned IOPS SSD is the correct answer. Question 36. You must implement an AWS solution that can expand and contract the number of server instances as needed. What AWS service provides this functionality? Option A. Auto-growing. Option B. Lambda. Option C. Auto-scaling. Option D. Elastic. Correct answer. Option C. Auto-scaling. Explanation: AWS auto-scaling can expand or contract the number of servers in a solution automatically based on current demands. This allows you to use and pay for the services you require, based on the load, but not more. No such service as auto-growing exists. Elastic provides in-memory caching. Lambda is a code execution engine that allows you to execute code without building out the instances required to run the code. Hence, auto-scaling is the correct answer. Question 37. What kind of storage is defined as data storage that persists only during the lifetime of an associated instance and that is lost when a drive fails, an instance stops, or an instance is terminated? Option A. EFS. Option B. Instance store. Option C. S3. Option D. EBS volume. Correct answer. Option B. Instance store. Explanation: the instance store is a temporary block storage solution for an instance. It holds temporary information such as buffers, caches, and scratch data. Instance stores are exposed as block devices known as ephemeral 0 through ephemeral 23 as needed, for a maximum of 24 instance stores per instance. EBS, EFS, and S3 all provide permanent storage. Hence, instance store is the correct answer. Question 38. What is the default upload operation type for data transferred to an S3 bucket? Option A. A single put operation. Option B. A multi-part put operation. Option C. SFTP transmission. Option D. FTP transmission. Correct answer. Option A. A single put operation. Explanation: by default, all files transferred to an S3 bucket are transferred using a single put operation. AWS suggests that files up to 100 megabytes in size can be transferred using this default operation. Larger files may require uploads through multi-part operations. Hence, a single put operation is the correct answer. Question 39. What should be implemented when microsecond response time is required of a DynamoDB implementation? Option A. EBS. Option B. EFS. Option C. Elastic. Option D. DAX. Correct answer. Option D. DAX. Explanation: DAX is the DynamoDB accelerator, which is an in-memory cache solution specifically designed for DynamoDB and can result in response times in microseconds. Elastic can be used with DynamoDB, but is not optimized for it. EBS and EFS have no impact here. Hence, DAX is the correct answer. Question 40. You have several Windows and Linux instances within a single subnet in a VPC. You want to ensure that no inbound traffic can reach the Windows instances. What is the best option? Option A. Linux firewall. Option B. IAM. Option C. Security groups. Option D. NACLs. Correct answer. Option C. Security groups. Explanation: the best option in this case, is security groups for each Windows instance network interface. If this were controlled with NACLs, it would also prevent access to the Linux instances. Hence, security groups is the correct answer. Question 41. A solutions architect is designing a new service that will use an Amazon API Gateway API on the front end. The service will need to persist data in a backend database using key-value requests. Initially, the data requirements will be around 1 GB and future growth is unknown. Requests can range from 0 to over 800 requests per second. Which combination of AWS services would meet these requirements? Select 2. Option A. Amazon DynamoDB. Option B. Amazon RDS. Option C. AWS Lambda. Option D. Amazon EC2 Auto Scaling. Option E. AWS Fargate. Correct answer. Option A. Amazon DynamoDB. Option C. AWS Lambda. Explanation: in this case, AWS Lambda can perform the computation and store the data in an Amazon DynamoDB table. Lambda can scale concurrent executions to meet demand easily, and DynamoDB is built for key-value data storage requirements and is also serverless and easily scalable. This is therefore a cost-effective solution for unpredictable workloads. Hence, the following options are correct. AWS Lambda. Amazon DynamoDB. References. Question 42. A company has two accounts for perform testing and each account has a single VPC, VPC Test 1 and VPC Test 2. The operations team require a method of securely copying files between Amazon EC2 instances in these VPCs. The connectivity should not have any single points of failure or bandwidth constraints. Which solution should a solutions architect recommend? Option A. Create a VPC peering connection between VPC Test 1 and VPC Test 2. Option B. Create a VPC gateway endpoint for each EC2 instance and update route tables. Option C. Attach a direct connect gateway to VPC Test 1 and VPC Test 2 and enable routing. Option D. Attach a virtual private gateway to VPC Test 1 and VPC Test 2 and enable routing. Correct answer. Option A. Create a VPC peering connection between VPC Test 1 and VPC Test 2. Explanation: a VPC peering connection is a networking connection between two VPCs that enables you to route traffic between them using private IPv4 addresses or IPv6 addresses. Instances in either VPC can communicate with each other as if they are within the same network. You can create a VPC peering connection between your own VPCs or with a VPC in another AWS account. The VPCs can be in different regions, also known as an inter-region VPC peering connection. Hence, creating a VPC peering connection between VPC Test 1 and VPC Test 2 is the correct answer. References. Question 43. A company uses an Amazon RDS MySQL database instance to store customer order data. The security team have requested that SSL/TLS encryption in transit must be used for encrypting connections to the database from application servers. The data in the database is currently encrypted at rest using an AWS KMS key. How can a solutions architect enable encryption in transit? Option A. Take a snapshot of the RDS instance. Restore the snapshot to a new instance with encryption in transit enabled. Option B. Add a self-signed certificate to the RDS-DB instance. Use the certificates in all connections to the RDS-DB instance. Option C. Download the AWS-provided root certificates. Use the certificates when connecting to the RDS-DB instance. Option D. Enable encryption in transit using the RDS Management Console and obtain a key using AWS KMS. Correct answer. Option C. Download the AWS provided root certificates. Use the certificates when connecting to the RDS DB instance. Explanation: Amazon RDS creates an SSL certificate and installs the certificate on the DB instance when Amazon RDS provisions the instance. These certificates are signed by a certificate authority. The SSL certificate includes the DB instance endpoint as the common name, CN, for the SSL certificate to guard against spoofing attacks. You can download a root certificate from AWS that works for all regions, or you can download region-specific intermediate certificates. Hence, download the AWS provided root certificates. Use of the certificates when connecting to the RDS DB instance is the correct answer. References. Question 44. A company uses a Microsoft Windows file share for storing documents and media files. Users access the share using Microsoft Windows clients and are authenticated using the company's Active Directory. The Chief Information Officer wants to move the data to AWS as they are approaching capacity limits. The existing user authentication and access management system should be used. How can a solutions architect meet these requirements? Option A. Move the documents and media files to an Amazon Simple Storage Service bucket and apply bucket ACLS. Option B. Move the documents and media files to an Amazon FSx for Windows File Server file system. Option C. Move the documents and media files to an Amazon FSx for Lustre file system. Option D. Move the documents and media files to an Amazon Elastic file system and use POSIX permissions. Correct answer. Option B. Move the documents and media files to an Amazon FSx for Windows File Server file system. Explanation: Amazon FSx for Windows File Server makes it easy for you to launch and scale reliable, performant, and secure shared file storage for your applications and end users. With Amazon FSx, you can launch highly durable and available file systems that can span multiple availability zones, AZs, and can be accessed from up to thousands of compute instances using the industry standard Server Message Block, SMB, protocol. It provides a rich set of administrative and security features and integrates with Microsoft Active Directory, AD. To serve a wide spectrum of workloads, Amazon FSx provides high levels of file system throughput and IOPS and consistent sub-millisecond latencies. You can also mount FSx file systems from on-premises using a VPN or direct connect connection. Hence, move the documents and media files to an Amazon FSx for Windows File Server file system is the correct answer. References. Question 45. An application has multiple components for receiving requests that must be processed and subsequently processing the requests. The company requires a solution for decoupling the application components. The application receives around 10,000 requests per day and requests can take up to 2 days to process. Requests that fail to process must be retained. Which solution meets these requirements most efficiently? Option A. Use an Amazon Kinesis data stream to decouple application components and integrate the processing component with the Kinesis client library, KCL. Option B. Create an Amazon DynamoDB table and enable DynamoDB streams. Configure the processing component to process requests from the stream. Option C. Decouple the application components with an Amazon SQS topic. Configure the receiving component to subscribe to the SNS topic. Option D. Decouple the application components with an Amazon SQS queue. Configure a dead letter queue to collect the requests that failed to process. Correct answer. Option D. Decouple the application components with an Amazon SQS queue. Configure a dead letter queue to collect the requests that failed to process. Explanation: the Amazon Simple Queue Service, SQS, is ideal for decoupling the application components. Standard queues can support up to 120,000 in-flight messages, and messages can be retained for up to 14 days in the queue. To ensure the retention of requests, messages, that fail to process, a dead letter queue can be configured. Messages that fail to process are sent to the dead letter queue, based on the redrive policy, and can be subsequently dealt with. Hence, decouple the application components with an Amazon SQS queue. Configure a dead letter queue to collect the requests that failed to process is the correct answer. References. Question 46. A security team wants to limit access to specific services or actions in all of the team's AWS accounts. All accounts belong to a large organization in AWS organizations. The solution must be scalable and there must be a single point where permissions can be maintained. What should a solutions architect do to accomplish this? Option A. Create a security group to allow accounts and attach it to user groups. Option B. Create an ACL to provide access to the services or actions. Option C. Create a service control policy in the root organizational unit to deny access to the services or actions. Option D. Create cross-account roles in each account to deny access to the services or actions. Correct answer. Option C. Create a service control policy in the root organizational unit to deny access to the services or actions. Explanation. Service control policies, SCPs, offer central control over the maximum available permissions for all accounts in your organization, allowing you to ensure your accounts stay within your organization's access control guidelines. SCPs alone are not sufficient for allowing access to the accounts in your organization. Attaching an SCP to an AWS organization's entity, root, OU, or account, defines a guardrail for what actions the principals can perform. You still need to attach identity-based or resource-based policies to principals or resources in your organization's accounts to actually grant permissions to them. Hence, create a service control policy in the root organizational unit to deny access to the services or actions is the correct answer. References. Question 47. A company hosts statistical data in an Amazon S3 bucket that users around the world download from their website using a URL that resolves to a domain name. The company needs to provide low latency access to users and plans to use Amazon Route 53 for hosting DNS records. Which solution meets these requirements? Option A. Create a record in Route 53, use a Route 53 traffic policy for the web application, and configure a geolocation rule. Configure health checks to check the health of the endpoint and route DNS queries to other endpoints if an endpoint is unhealthy. Option B. Create a web distribution on Amazon CloudFront pointing to an Amazon S3 origin. Create a name record in a Route 53 hosted zone that points to the CloudFront distribution, resolving to the application's URL domain name. Option C. Create a web distribution on Amazon CloudFront pointing to an Amazon S3 origin. Create an alias record in the Amazon Route 53 hosted zone that points to the CloudFront distribution, resolving to the application's URL domain name. Option D. Create a record in Route 53, use a Route 53 traffic policy for the web application, and configure a geoproximity rule. Configure health checks to check the health of the endpoint and route DNS queries to other endpoints if an endpoint is unhealthy. Correct answer. Option C. Create a web distribution on Amazon CloudFront pointing to an Amazon S3 origin. Create an alias record in the Amazon Route 53 hosted zone that points to the CloudFront distribution, resolving to the application's URL domain name. Explanation. This is a simple requirement for low latency access to the contents of an Amazon S3 bucket for global users. The best solution here is to use Amazon CloudFront to cache the content in edge locations around the world. This involves creating a web distribution that points to an S3 origin, the bucket, and then creating an alias record in Route 53 that resolves the application's URL to the CloudFront distribution endpoint. Hence, create a web distribution on Amazon CloudFront pointing to an Amazon S3 origin. Create an alias record in the Amazon Route 53 hosted zone that points to the CloudFront distribution, resolving to the application's URL. Domain name is the correct answer. References. Question 48. A company has created an application that stores sales performance data in an Amazon DynamoDB table. A web application is being created to display the data. A solutions architect must design the web application using managed services that require minimal operational maintenance. Which architectures meet these requirements? Select 2. Option A. An elastic load balancer forwards requests to a target group of Amazon EC2 instances. The EC2 instances run an application that reads data from the DynamoDB table. Option B. An Amazon Route 53 hosted zone routes requests to an AWS Lambda endpoint to invoke a Lambda function that reads data from the DynamoDB table. Option C. An Amazon API Gateway REST API directly accesses the sales performance data in the DynamoDB table. Option D. An Amazon API Gateway REST API invokes an AWS Lambda function. The Lambda function reads data from the DynamoDB table. Option A. An elastic load balancer forwards requests to a target group with the DynamoDB table configured as the target. Correct answer. Option C. An Amazon API Gateway REST API directly accesses the sales performance data in the DynamoDB table. Option D. An Amazon API Gateway REST API invokes an AWS Lambda function. The Lambda function reads data from the DynamoDB table. Explanation: there are two architectures here that fulfill the requirement to create a web application that displays the data from the DynamoDB table. The first one is to use an API Gateway REST API that invokes an AWS Lambda function. A Lambda proxy integration can be used, and this will proxy the API requests to the Lambda function, which processes the request and accesses the DynamoDB table. The second option is to use an API Gateway REST API to directly access the sales performance data. In this case, a proxy for the DynamoDB query API can be created using a method in the REST API. Hence, the following options are correct. An Amazon API Gateway REST API invokes an AWS Lambda function. The Lambda function reads data from the DynamoDB table. An Amazon API Gateway REST API directly accesses the sales performance data in the DynamoDB table. References. Question 49. An application runs on premises and produces data that must be stored in a locally accessible file system that servers can mount using the NFS protocol. The data must be subsequently analyzed by Amazon EC2 instances in the AWS cloud. How can these requirements be met? Option A. Use an AWS storage gateway file gateway to provide a locally accessible file system that replicates data to the cloud, then analyze the data in the AWS cloud. Option B. Use an AWS storage gateway volume gateway in cached mode to back up all the local storage in the AWS cloud, then perform analytics on this data in the cloud. Option C. Use an AWS storage gateway volume gateway in stored mode to regularly take snapshots of the local data, then copy the data to AWS. Option D. Use an AWS storage gateway tape gateway to take a backup of the local data and store it on AWS, then perform analytics on this data in the AWS cloud. Correct answer. Option A. Use an AWS storage gateway file gateway to provide a locally accessible file system that replicates data to the cloud, then analyze the data in the AWS cloud. Explanation: the best solution for this requirement is to use an AWS storage gateway file gateway. This will provide a local NFS mount point for the data and a local cache. The data is then replicated to Amazon S3, where it can be analyzed by the Amazon EC2 instances in the AWS cloud. Hence, using an AWS storage gateway file gateway to provide a locally accessible file system that replicates data to the cloud, then analyzing the data in the AWS cloud is the correct answer. References. Question 50. An application runs on Amazon EC2 instances across multiple availability zones. The instances run in an Amazon EC2 auto-scaling group behind an application load balancer. The application performs best when the CPU utilization of the EC2 instances is at or near 40%. What should a solutions architect do to maintain the desired performance across all instances in the group? Option A. Use a simple scaling policy to dynamically scale the auto-scaling group. Option B. Use an AWS Lambda function to update the desired auto-scaling group capacity. Option C. Use a target tracking policy to dynamically scale the auto-scaling group. Option D. Use scheduled scaling actions to scale up and scale down the auto-scaling group. Correct answer. Option C. Use a target tracking policy to dynamically scale the auto-scaling group. Explanation: with target tracking scaling policies, you select a scaling metric and set a target value. Amazon EC2 auto-scaling creates and manages the CloudWatch alarms that trigger the scaling policy and calculates the scaling adjustment based on the metric and the target value. The scaling policy adds or removes capacity as required to keep the metric at, or close to, the specified target value. In addition to keeping the metric close to the target value, a target tracking scaling policy also adjusts to the changes in the metric due to a changing load pattern. Hence, use a target tracking policy to dynamically scale the auto-scaling group is the correct answer. References. Question 51. An application runs on a fleet of Amazon EC2 instances in an Amazon EC2 auto-scaling group behind an elastic load balancer. The operations team has determined that the application performs best when the CPU utilization of the EC2 instances is at or near 60%. Which scaling configuration should a solutions architect use to optimize the application's performance? Option A. Use a simple scaling policy to dynamically scale the auto-scaling group. Option B. Use a step scaling policy to dynamically scale the auto-scaling group. Option C. Use a target tracking policy to dynamically scale the auto-scaling group. Option D. Use a scheduled scaling policy to dynamically the auto-scaling group. Correct answer. Option C. Use a target tracking policy to dynamically scale the auto-scaling group. Explanation: with target tracking scaling policies, you select a scaling metric and set a target value. Amazon EC2 auto-scaling creates and manages the CloudWatch alarms that trigger the scaling policy and calculates the scaling adjustment based on the metric and the target value. The scaling policy adds or removes capacity as required to keep the metric at, or close to, the specified target value. In addition to keeping the metric close to the target value, a target tracking scaling policy also adjusts to changes in the metric due to a changing load pattern. Hence, use a target tracking policy to dynamically scale the auto-scaling group is the correct answer. References. Question 52. Health-related data in Amazon S3 needs to be frequently accessed for up to 90 days. After that time, the data must be retained for compliance reasons for 7 years and is rarely accessed. Which storage classes should be used? Option A. Store data in standard for 90 days, then transition to reduced redundancy. Option B. Store data in standard for 90 days, then transition the data to deep archive. Option C. Store data in intelligent tiering for 90 days, then transition to standard IA. Option D. Store data in standard for 90 days, then expire the data. Correct answer. Option B. Store data in standard for 90 days then transition the data to deep_archive. Explanation: in this case the data is frequently accessed, so must be stored in a standard for the first 90 days. After that the data is still to be kept for compliance reasons, but is rarely accessed, so is a good use case for deep_archive. Hence, store data in standard for 90 days then transition the data to deep_archive is the correct answer. References. Question 53. A company has several AWS accounts that are used by developers for development, testing, and pre-production environments. The company has received large bills for Amazon EC2 instances that are underutilized. A solutions architect has been tasked with restricting the ability to launch large EC2 instances in all accounts. How can the solutions architect meet this requirement with the least operational overhead? Option A. Create an organization in AWS organizations that includes all accounts and create a service control policy, SCP, that denies the launch of large EC2 instances. Option B. Create a resource-based policy that denies the launch of large EC2 instances and attach it to Amazon EC2 in each account. Option C. Create an IAM role in each account that denies the launch of large EC2 instances. Grant the developer's IAM group access to the role. Option D. Create a service-linked role for Amazon EC2 and attach a policy that denies the launch of large EC2 instances. Correct answer. Option A. Create an organization in AWS organizations that includes all accounts and create a service control policy, SCP, that denies the launch of large EC2 instances. Explanation: service control policies, SCPs, are a type of organization policy that you can use to manage permissions in your organization. SCPs offer central control over the maximum available permissions for all accounts in your organization. An SCP defines a guardrail, or sets limits, on the actions that the account's administrator can delegate to the IAM users and roles in the affected accounts. In this case, the solutions architect can use an SCP to define a restriction that denies the launch of large EC2 instances. The SCP can be applied to all accounts, and this will ensure that even those users with permissions to launch EC2 instances will be restricted to smaller EC2 instance types. Hence, creating an organization in AWS organizations that includes all accounts and creating a service control policy, SCP, that denies the launch of large EC2 instances is the correct answer. References. Question 54. A solutions architect is designing an application that will run on an Amazon EC2 instance. The application must asynchronously invoke an AWS Lambda function to analyze thousands of .csv files. The services should be decoupled. Which service can be used to decouple the compute services? Option A. Amazon SWF. Option B. Amazon Kinesis. Option C. Amazon OpsWorks. Option D. Amazon SNS. Correct answer. Option D. Amazon SNS. Explanation: you can use a Lambda function to process Amazon's simple notification service notifications. Amazon SNS supports Lambda functions as a target for messages sent to a topic. This solution decouples the Amazon EC2 application from Lambda and ensures the Lambda function is invoked. Hence, Amazon SNS is the correct answer. References. Question 55. A solutions architect has placed an Amazon CloudFront distribution in front of their web server, which is serving up a highly accessed website, serving content globally. The solutions architect needs to dynamically route the user to a new URL depending on where the user is accessing from, through running a particular script. This dynamic routing will happen on every request, and as a result requires the code to run at extremely low latency and low cost. What solution will best achieve this goal? Option A. Use path-based routing to route each user to the appropriate web page behind an application load balancer. Option B. Use Route 53 geo-proximity routing to route users' traffic to your resources based on their geographic location. Option C. Redirect traffic by running your code within a Lambda function using Lambda at edge. Option D. At the edge location, run your code with CloudFront functions. Correct answer. Option D. At the edge location, run your code with CloudFront functions. Explanation: with CloudFront functions in Amazon CloudFront, you can write lightweight functions in JavaScript for high-scale, latency-sensitive CDN customizations. Your functions can manipulate the requests and responses that flow through CloudFront, perform basic authentication and authorization, generate HTTP responses at the edge, and more. CloudFront functions is approximately 1/6 the cost of Lambda at edge and is extremely low latency as the functions are run on the host in the edge location, instead of running on a Lambda function elsewhere. Hence, at the edge location, run your code with CloudFront functions is the correct answer. References. Question 56. A company is using Amazon Aurora as the database for an online retail application. Data analysts run reports every fortnight that take a long time to process and cause performance degradation for the database. A solutions architect has reviewed performance metrics in Amazon CloudWatch and noticed that the read IOPS and CPU utilization metrics are spiking when the reports run. What is the most cost-effective solution to resolve the performance issues? Option A. Migrate the fortnightly reporting to an Aurora replica. Option B. Migrate the fortnightly reporting to Amazon EMR. Option C. Migrate the Aurora database to a larger instance class. Option D. Increase the provisioned IOPS on the Aurora instance. Correct answer. Option A. Migrate the fortnightly reporting to an Aurora replica. Explanation: you can issue queries to the Aurora replicas to scale the read operations for your application. You typically do so by connecting to the reader endpoint of the cluster. That way, Aurora can spread the load for read-only connections across as many Aurora replicas as you have in the cluster. This solution is the most cost-effective method of scaling the database for reads for the regular reporting job. The reporting job will be run against the read endpoint and will not cause performance issues for the main database. Hence, migrate the fortnightly reporting to an Aurora replica is the correct answer. References. Question 57. A dynamic website runs on Amazon EC2 instances behind an application load balancer, ALB. Users are distributed around the world, and many are reporting poor website performance. The company uses Amazon Route 53 for DNS. Which set of actions will improve website performance while minimizing cost? Option A. Host the website in an Amazon S3 bucket and delete the ALB and EC2 instances. Enable transfer acceleration and update the Amazon Route 53 record to point to the S3 bucket. Option B. Create an Amazon CloudFront distribution and configure the ALB as an origin. Then update the Amazon Route 53 record to point to the CloudFront distribution. Option C. Launch new EC2 instances running the website and ALBs in different regions. Use AWS Global Accelerator to direct connections to the closest region. Option D. Create a latency-based Amazon Route 53 record for the ALB. Then launch new EC2 instances with larger instance sizes and register the instances with the ALB. Correct answer. Option B. Create an Amazon CloudFront distribution and configure the ALB as an origin. Then update the Amazon Route 53 record to point to the CloudFront distribution. Explanation: the most cost-effective option for improving performance is to create an Amazon CloudFront distribution. CloudFront can be used to serve both static and dynamic content. This solution will ensure that wherever users are located they will experience improved performance due to the caching of content and the usage of the AWS Global Network. Hence, create an Amazon CloudFront distribution and configure the ALB as an origin. Then update the Amazon Route 53 record to point to the CloudFront distribution is the correct answer. References. Question 58. To increase performance and redundancy for an application, a company has decided to run multiple implementations in different AWS regions behind network load balancers. The company currently advertises the application using two public IP addresses from separate /24 address ranges and would prefer not to change these. Users should be directed to the closest available application endpoint. Which actions should a solutions architect take? Select 2. Option A. Create an AWS Global Accelerator and attach endpoints in each AWS region. Option B. Create an Amazon Route 53 geolocation-based routing policy. Option C. Assign new static anycast IP addresses and modify any existing pointers. Option D. Create PTR records to map existing public IP addresses to an alias. Option E. Migrate both public IP addresses to the AWS Global Accelerator. Correct answer. Option A. Create an AWS Global Accelerator and attach endpoints in each AWS region. Option E. Migrate both public IP addresses to the AWS Global Accelerator. Explanation: AWS Global Accelerator uses static IP addresses as fixed entry points for your application. You can migrate up to 2/24 IPv4 address ranges and choose which /32 IP addresses to use when you create your accelerator. This solution ensures the company can continue using the same IP addresses, and they are able to direct traffic to the application endpoint in the AWS region closest to the end user. Traffic is sent over the AWS Global Network for consistent performance. Hence, the following options are correct. Create an AWS Global Accelerator and attach endpoints in each AWS region. Migrate both public IP addresses to the AWS Global Accelerator. References. Question 59. A company provides a voice over Internet Protocol, VoIP, service that uses UDP as the protocol. The service utilizes Amazon EC2 instances that are scaled automatically using an auto-scaling group. The company currently uses multiple AWS regions for its AWS deployments. The company needs to route users to the appropriate region based on the lowest latency. The company also needs automated failover between regions. Which solution will meet these requirements? Option A. Set up a network load balancer, NLB, and an associated target group. Assign the target group with the auto-scaling group. In each region, use the NLB as an AWS Global Accelerator endpoint. Option B. Create a network load balancer, NLB, and an associated target group. Assign the target group to the auto-scaling group and create an Amazon Route 53 latency record that points to aliases for each NLB. Option C. Set up an application load balancer, ALB, and a target group. Associate the target group with the auto-scaling group and use the ALB as an AWS Global Accelerator endpoint in each region. Option D. Deploy an application load balancer, ALB, and its associated target group. Assign the target group to the auto-scaling group and create an Amazon Route 53 weighted record that points to aliases for each ALB. Correct answer. Option A. Set up a network load balancer, NLB, and an associated target group. Assign the target group with the auto-scaling group. In each region, use the NLB as an AWS Global Accelerator endpoint. Explanation: for UDP traffic, the solution must use a network load balancer, as ALBs do not support UDP. The solution also requires both latency-based routing and automated failover. AWS Global Accelerator can be used to achieve both these requirements. It will direct users to the lowest latency endpoint, and if an endpoint becomes unhealthy, it automatically reroutes to the next best endpoint. Hence, set up a network load balancer, NLB, and an associated target group. Assign the target group to the auto-scaling group. In each region, using the NLB as an AWS Global Accelerator endpoint is the correct answer. References. Question 60. A retail company is running an important event. The company require guaranteed capacity in 2 specific availability zones in a specific AWS region for running Amazon EC2 instances for 5 consecutive days. What is the best way to ensure guaranteed EC2 capacity? Option A. Create an on-demand capacity reservation that specifies the region and 2 availability zones needed. Option B. Purchase reserved instances that specify the region and 2 availability zones needed. Option C. Create an on-demand capacity reservation that specifies the region. Option D. Purchase reserved instances that specify the region. Correct answer. Option A. Create an on-demand capacity reservation that specifies the region and 2 availability zones needed. Explanation: on-demand capacity reservations enable you to reserve compute capacity for your Amazon EC2 instances in a specific availability zone for any duration. When creating capacity reservations, you ensure that you always have access to EC2 capacity when you need it, for as long as you need it, in this case, for 5 days. You can create capacity reservations at any time, without entering a 1-year or 3-year term commitment. Also, when you create a capacity reservation, you specify the availability zone in which to reserve the capacity. The number of instances for which to reserve capacity. The instance attributes, including the instance type, tenancy, and platform/OS. Hence, create an on-demand capacity reservation that specifies the region and 2 availability zones needed is the correct answer. References. Question 61. A company has an on-premises server that uses a MySQL database to process and store customer information. The company wants to migrate to an AWS database service to achieve higher availability and to improve application performance. Additionally, the company wants to offload reporting workloads from its primary database to ensure it remains performant. Which solution will meet these requirements in the most operationally efficient way? Option A. Use Amazon EC2 instances to deploy a self-managed MySQL database with a replication setup for reporting purposes. Place instances in multiple availability zones and manage backups and patching manually. Option B. Use Amazon RDS with MySQL in a single AZ deployment. Create a read replica in the same availability zone as the primary DB instance. Direct the reporting functions to the read replica. Option C. Use Amazon Aurora with MySQL compatibility. Direct the reporting functions to use one of the Aurora replicas. Option D. Use AWS Database Migration Service, AWS DMS, to create an Amazon Aurora DB cluster in multiple AWS regions. Point the reporting functions toward a separate DB instance from the primary DB instance. Correct answer. Option C. Use Amazon Aurora with MySQL compatibility. Direct the reporting functions to use one of the Aurora replicas. Explanation: Amazon Aurora with MySQL compatibility is a good fit for achieving high availability and improved performance. Aurora automatically distributes the data across multiple AZs in a single region. Additionally, Aurora allows the creation of up to 15 Aurora replicas that share the same underlying volume as the primary instance. Directing reporting functions to the Aurora replica is an effective way to offload reporting workloads from the primary database. Hence, Use Amazon Aurora with MySQL compatibility. Direct the reporting functions to use one of the Aurora replicas is the correct answer. References. Question 62. A financial services company is currently using 500 Amazon EC2 instances to run batch processing workloads to analyze financial information on a periodic basis. The organization needs to install a third-party tool on all these instances as quickly and as efficiently as possible and will have to carry out similar tasks on an ongoing basis going forward. The solution also needs to scale for the addition of future EC2 instances. What should a solutions architect do to meet these requirements in the easiest way possible? Option A. Use AWS Systems Manager Patch Manager to install the tool on all the EC2 instances within a single patch. Option B. Use AWS Systems Manager Run command to run a custom command that installs the tool on all the EC2 instances. Option C. Use AWS Systems Manager Maintenance Windows to install the tool on all the EC2 instances within a set period of time. Option D. Create an AWS Lambda function which will make configuration changes to all the EC2 instances. Validate the tool has been installed using another Lambda function. Correct answer. Option B. Use AWS Systems Manager Run command to run a custom command that installs the tool on all the EC2 instances. Explanation: AWS Systems Manager Run command is designed to run commands across a large group of instances without having to SSH into all your instances and run the same command multiple times. You can easily run the same command to all the managed nodes as part of the workload, without having to maintain access keys or individual access for each instance. Hence, use AWS Systems Manager Run command to run a custom command that installs the tool on all the EC2 instances is the correct answer. References. Question 63. A data analytics company is hosting a data lake which consists of data in Amazon S3 and Amazon RDS for PostgreSQL. The company needs a reporting solution that provides data visualization for the latest dataset and includes all the data sources within the data lake. Only the company's management team should have full access to all the visualizations. The rest of the company should have only limited access. Which solution will meet these requirements? Option A. Create an AWS glue table and crawler for the data in Amazon S3. Use Amazon Athena Federated Query to access data within Amazon RDS for PostgreSQL. Generate reports by using Amazon Athena. Publish the reports to Amazon S3. Use S3 bucket policies to limit access to the reports. Option B. Create an analysis in Amazon QuickSight. Connect all the data sources and create new data sets. Publish dashboards to visualize the data. Share the dashboards with the appropriate users and groups. Option C. Create an analysis in Amazon QuickSight. Connect all the data sources and create new data sets. Publish dashboards to visualize the data. Share the dashboards with the appropriate IM roles. Option D. Create an AWS glue table and crawler for the data in Amazon S3. Create an AWS glue extract, transform, and load, ETL, job to produce reports. Publish the reports to Amazon S3. Use S3 bucket policies to limit access to the reports. Correct answer. Option A. Create an AWS glue table and crawler for the data in Amazon S3. Use Amazon Athena Federated Query to access data within Amazon RDS for PostgreSQL. Generate reports by using Amazon Athena. Publish the reports to Amazon S3. Use S3 bucket policies to limit access to the reports. Explanation: if you have data in sources other than Amazon S3, you can use Athena Federated Query to query the data in place or build pipelines that extract data from multiple data sources and store them in Amazon S3. With Athena Federated Query, you can run SQL queries across data stored in relational, non-relational, object, and custom data sources. Athena uses data source connectors that run on AWS Lambda to run federated queries. A data source connector is a piece of code that can translate between your target data source and Athena. You can think of a connector as an extension of Athena's query engine. Pre-built Athena data source connectors exist for data sources like Amazon CloudWatch Logs, Amazon DynamoDB, Amazon DocumentDB, and Amazon RDS, and JDBC-compliant relational data sources such MySQL, and PostgreSQL under the Apache 2.0 license. Hence, create an AWS Glue table and crawler for the data in Amazon S3. Use Amazon Athena Federated Query to access data within Amazon RDS for PostgreSQL. Generate reports by using Amazon Athena. Publish the reports to Amazon S3. Use S3 bucket policies to limit access to the reports is the correct answer. References. Question 64. As a security measure, a finance-based organization want to introduce additional security measures for an existing application deployed in AWS. The application is serverless and has an Amazon API gateway in front which is deployed in the US East 1 region and the EU West 1 region. The company requires the accounts to be secured against SQL injection and cross-site scripting attacks. Which solution will meet these requirements with the least amount of administrative effort? Option A. Set up AWS WAF in both regions. Associate Regional Web ACLS with an API stage. Option B. Set up AWS Firewall Manager in both regions. Centrally configure AWS WAF rules. Option C. Set up AWS Shield in one of the regions. Associate Regional Web ACLS with an API stage. Option D. Set up AWS Shield in both regions. Associate Regional Web ACLS with an API stage. Correct answer. Option B. Set up AWS Firewall Manager in both regions. Centrally configure AWS WAF rules. Explanation: AWS Firewall Manager simplifies your administration and maintenance tasks across multiple accounts and resources for a variety of protections, including AWS WAF, AWS Shield Advanced, Amazon VPC Security Groups, AWS Network Firewall, and Amazon Route 53 Resolver DNS Firewall. With Firewall Manager, you set up your protections just once, and the service automatically applies them across your accounts and resources, even as you add new accounts and resources. AWS WAF is used for protecting against malicious web attacks and is the best service to use to protect against SQL injection and cross-site scripting attacks. Used in combination with AWS Firewall Manager, this solution protects both regions and requires the least administrative effort. Hence, set up AWS Firewall Manager in both regions. Centrally configure AWS WAF rules is the correct answer. References. Question 65. A company needs to capture detailed information about all HTTP requests that are processed by their Internet-facing application load balancer, ALB. The company requires information on the requester, IP address, and request type for analyzing traffic patterns to better understand their customer base. Which actions should a solutions architect recommend? Option A. Use CloudTrail to capture all API calls made to the ALB. Option B. Enable EC2 detailed monitoring. Option C. Enable access logs and store the data on S3. Option D. Configure metrics in CloudWatch for the ALB. Correct answer. Option C. Enable access logs and store the data on S3. Explanation: you can enable access logs on the ALB, and this will provide the information required, including requester, IP, and request type. Access logs are not enabled by default. You can optionally store and retain the log files on S3. Hence, enabling access logs and storing the data on S3 is the correct answer. References. Thanks for watching. If this practice test helped you, make sure to subscribe to Code with Ankit Sahu on YouTube for more AWS practice tests and tech tutorials. You can also connect with me on Facebook and follow my articles on Medium for additional AWS and cloud learning content. All reference document links are available in my Medium post, with the link provided in the description. Stay tuned, keep practicing, and keep building with AWS.